want to talk to you a little bit about the Tree of Liberty. The Tree of Liberty. It was the tree where the founders and the revolutionaries at the time would all meet. They'd meet under the Tree of Liberty, and they would figure out, sorry, I could only find Ben Franklin. He was kind of lonely, apparently, under this Tree of Liberty. But now we have to face the question, is the Tree of Liberty dead? Is the American experiment over? Because there is a new seed. They are planting a new tree. In fact, it's an acorn that's being planted. And they've got all kinds of plans, and it does not resemble at all the old Tree of Liberty. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? The left is dividing and conquering, and they are tearing us apart. But we have to be able to come back together. How do you do that with the complex problems that we have? Well, I'll show you with a few things. Let's say this is the Tree of Liberty and the 4 branches here, if you will. Let's start with Wikileaks. Everybody's telling you now we've got to arrest him, we've got to stop, we've got to batten down the hatches. Maybe some are even saying we've got to secure the internet. Okay, can we back up? Because we're all on the edges of these branches. And if you put enough weight on the ends of these branches, the tree will split in half. And that's what they're counting on. So here's Wikileaks. Well, let's trace this branch back a little bit. Why do we have the Wikileaks problem? Because of lax security. Why do we have lax security? Because of corrupt politicians and government. Why do we have that? Because the government is too powerful. They haven't had to answer to the people for a very long time. Why has that happened? Because we lost sight of the founders' vision. The founders' vision, America is good. The government works for me. The roots of this tree, courage, hard work, thrift, hope, honesty. It's the 912 trunk and roots, the 912 principles and values. You do it with any of them. We have unemployment extension. This is going to split the tree in half eventually. We're all standing out here. Or do we do it or not? Well, no, let's trace this problem back. Too many people are unemployed. Why is that? Because business is scared to hire. Why is that? Because the government is too big and overactive, and they're scaring businesses. Why is this all happening? Because we lost sight of the founders' vision. TARP. Why did that happen? Let's get TARP. There's a solution. Do we do more TARP? No. Let's trace this back, please. TARP is because we had a banking crisis. Banking crisis because we had greed. Greed because of self-importance. Self-importance because there's loss of faith in something bigger than ourselves, which leads to the loss of the sight of the founders' vision and all the way down to the roots. We're printing money. We're digitizing money. Printing or digitizing money. Why? Because of the economic slowdown. Because of the housing crisis. Why do we have a housing crisis? Because we were signing unaffordable mortgages. Why? Because we were too focused on stuff. We've got to cut the branches off. The only way to solve these problems is to get back down here. Anything you try to do up here is still going to, in the end, split this tree in half. And that is what they're hoping for, because they have a new seed for you. We'll get a new tree. Well, I'm sorry. I like the old Tree of Liberty. But this has gone unpruned for too long. It's time to prune all of this back and get back to the founding principles and the roots, the principles and the values that founded this country, that built this country. We've been abusing it for 100 years. We can get there, but we have to unite on the principles and the values and not talk about just the problems and the political solutions. Because at this point, gang, there are no political solutions for these. It's too big. I would like to ask you to do something tonight at 8 o'clock. I started making documentaries for GlennBeck.com, and I have my first one in a series called American Traditions, trying to get back to the traditions of America. What got us here? It's a full-length documentary on Insider Extreme. This one, you want to get the whole family on. This one is American Traditions Christmas. We have a lot of celebrities, including Andy Williams. Really tender moment with Andy Williams that the whole family will see. You will not believe the history of Christmas in America. It will make sense, possibly for the first time in your life. American Traditions Christmas, tonight. Begins, I believe, at 7 or 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern Time at GlennBeck.com. Go there now. Sign up. Back in a minute. I'm just making a list of the things that if you needed to control the United States of America, if you wanted to take over, if you were a radical revolutionary, what would you need? What would you have to have? What would you have to have? There's about 5 or 6 of these things that I wrote down about a year and a half ago, and I've been watching the trends on them. And there's not much left. There's not much left. Tomorrow I'm going to show you something that is, I think, really disturbing. It's something the military is now prepping for. And I want you to understand this because I trust the military. I just don't trust the elite elected officials in Washington that are now preparing for catastrophic collapse and civil disobedience. It is, it's one thing to hear me say it, you know, because I'm the crazy guy. It's another to hear the Pentagon say it. Preparations are being made, and this, the first stop on the train, is they have to first get you to stop talking to each other, the media. The FCC is where we're going to go tonight. One of the things we told you about a year ago, I told you that the fairness doctrine was not going to go through. I said it wasn't enough. It wasn't nearly enough for the radicals. It wasn't difficult to figure out because it was in their own words. But people refused to listen to people in power and what they say. The FCC commissioner now, Mignon Clyburn, she's the daughter of Congressman Clyburn, I believe. She views internet access now as a civil rights issue. I warn you, she's going to use language that would be considered offensive if I or Don Imus would say it. Listen.
Every nappy-headed, yes, I said it, nappy-headed child deserves to be not only connected, but to be proud of who he or she is. I cannot think of a more significant, overarching civil rights issue than this. The ability for us to communicate worldwide.
Okay. You got it? It's another civil right. Where's the outcry? I mean, the nappy-headed thing? Really? Seriously? No outcry there? The point is that it's not fairness doctrine. It is now social justice. It is a civil right. It is knocking someone out of power and giving it to someone else. That's what's coming. And now FCC Commissioner Michael Copps wants broadcast stations to pass a public values test. They will have to pass it to keep their license, and if they fail, they'll go on probation. If there is no measurable progress, the station will lose its license, and the FCC will, quote, give the license to someone who will use it to serve the public interest, end quote. But who will decide which stations have made measurable progress? Who makes the decision on who to give the license to if the station isn't deemed of public value anymore? Is it just me? Or does this sound more and more like Venezuela's media system than America's? Al Sharpton is now out on the making the rounds on the front row, making the case that Rush Limbaugh, and no doubt others like me, need to be off the air.
Rush Limbaugh has the right to say whatever he wants to say. He does not have the right to do it, though, on publicly regulated airwaves. The FCC has a responsibility to set standards to say the public cannot be offended based on their race or their gender in this country.
Then he'd never be on TV because he offends me an awful lot. And I'm sure I offend him. You do have the right to say whatever you want. You also have the right to be offended. You don't have the right to never be offended. And not everybody wins. Not everybody gets a trophy at the end of the game. The FCC cannot regulate offensive language. If you were to discriminate based on race or gender, then you run afoul of the law. But now we're talking about never being offended. And who's going to decide what's offensive? How are we possibly going to solve any problems if we're never going to offend each other? They're coming now for talk radio and the internet, and I told you this was coming. Progressives desperately want to control what you see, what you read, what you eat, what you hear, what you watch, who lives and who dies. The structure is close to being finished and in place. Congress said no to net neutrality. So did the courts. But now the bureaucratic system is coming in to regulate it. Regulate. Who's the most dangerous man in America? Oh, yeah. Cass Sunstein, or czar of regulation. Can the FCC or the court overrule the American people? You'll find that answer in the 5,000-year leap. Read it. You must know these things. You must be self-reliant. You must unplug from the system as much as you can. And do not rely on others, including me, to tell you the truth. Know it for yourself, even if it offends. Next week, I'm going to be in Wilmington, Ohio. I'm going to broadcast this program live. Then we have some special things that are going on around town. And then I'm doing a special show, I think, at 7 or 8 o'clock in the theater there. The Murphy Theater, December 15th in Wilmington, Ohio. It is a special place. It is a place that 7,500 people have lost their jobs. It's a town of 12,000, I believe. Everybody else has brought their cameras there and they said, look at the despair, look at how... We came there and we found profound hope. We found answers there. I think Wilmington, Ohio is one of those towns that can teach the rest of the country how to live their life. It's a wonderful life. It really is. This is a town that I want you to come to, and if you have Christmas shopping to do and you're in the Ohio area, will you please come to Wilmington, Ohio next Wednesday with me? Will you do your Christmas shopping there? Here's a town that could use some Christmas cheer, but I guarantee you that when you leave there, you're going to leave with much more than you left there. Join me, Wilmington, Ohio, next Wednesday, live and in the evening. If you're in the area, come see me. Back in a minute.
Some heroes are born, and some are made. Vince Flynn returns with the instant #1 New York Times bestseller, American Assassin. Critics rave Vince Flynn's books are spectacular and captivating. Read American Assassin today.
You don't want to miss a single episode of the show this week. Kind of a scary show tomorrow, and then on Friday, miracles from New York. Good night, America.